Hey there, here is a travel update for 2024 for my viewers who are Americans traveling to Europe. The European Travel Information and Authorization System will be enforced in 30 countries across the European Union and the Schengen Zone and some microstates. Most countries in Europe are going to require this new travel authorization. So if you're flying to Europe next year, you will hear my travel tips so that you will not feel as overwhelmed as I did when I first heard that Americans were now going to have to pack a visa to travel over there for vacation. I'm going to debunk some myths in this video as well now that I've researched the information for this new system. I am a pilot wife and I'm going to give you 12 travel tips to help you not feel as overwhelmed and kind of explain this as we go. Presently, we follow the Schengen agreement, and that means if we fly to Spain and want to get on a train and travel to another country, we do not have to show our passport or any documentation to cross that border. To help with border management, now those rules are changing, and in 2024, starting on January 1st, we will be required to have a travel authorization or permit. Travel tip number 1 is it is not a visa. Over the media, you were hearing it called that. It is a travel authorization or a travel permit. If you have a regular visa, a travel visa, a work visa, a student visa, you do not need to travel with this ETIAS permit or authorization. This is just securing their borders, and that means that they would be able to say, yes, we know who Laurie is, and she is going to be in this country for this trip. Here is where you could be asked if you have this new travel authorization. Via airplane, via a ferry, via a ship, via bus, via train, or in person crossing that border. Tip number 2 is that you cannot do anything until January 1st, 2024. The website is not open for you to fill out your application yet. So that gives you some time to wait and see what happens. Tip number 3 is that the application process that you will do online, it costs €7, which is $7 and change today. To sign up for this travel authorization permit, you will need to give away all of your personal information only on their official website. Use a valid email address because that's where you will be receiving your acceptance letter and your reapplying email reminder. And just like we used to have to do, or some countries still make, you fill out a customs little rectangle form on paper in the airplane before you land. When you first fill out your application for this travel permit, you have to say your intent for that trip. And I would just choose vacation or write vacation. Their site says that over 90% of the people will automatically receive immediate acceptance for this permit. But if they require additional information from you, or if you've done something wrong maybe, it could take up to only 30 days. I am thinking of this as our Real ID here in the United States. I've had my Real ID for 3 or 4 years now, and they keep pushing back the time that it's going to be required. And they could push this back to another year again. It's already been pushed back once. So I will keep you up to date here on Travel Tips by Laurie. Tip number 4 is that this permit is good for 3 years, but it cannot be expiring within 3 months of you visiting that country or microstate. And tip number 5 is an important tip, I think, and that is they want you, when you first apply, to tell where your origin of that trip is going to start. And that throws some people off, but they also say on their website that you can just put in what you think is going to be your starting point, get accepted, get your permit, travel authorization, and then later you can change your plans and you do not have to update it and fill out a brand new application for another 3 years. And by the way, if you do need to stop the application process, you can save your work and come back and finish it later. Tip number 6 is if you change your name during those 3 years on your passport, then you will need to fill out a form for a new travel authorization. So on your documentation that you use to enter a country, most of us use a passport. If that name changes, then you will need to sign up for a new travel authorization. Tip number 7, though, is if you lose your passport, you have to apply for a brand new travel authorization permit. Here is what the ETIAS says to do if you lose your passport. Number 1, contact the local police. Number 2, contact your U.S. consulate. Most likely, the consulate will give you a travel document that can be used instead of your passport or a replacement passport so that you can now get a new authorization permit. If you are even going to need it during that trip, you might be leaving and won't need to do it right then. My travel tip is to take a picture of the barcode inside the back cover of your passport before your trip. This leads me to tip number 8, and that is we always trust the ugly old classic money belt to put our passports in when we're touring in European Union cities. Notice that the official website does have a frequently asked questions section. That is where I found out that you do not have to print it out. And great news is tip number 9, if you are connecting in one of these 30 countries or microstates in that airport to another country, then you will not need to have that authorization done. If you are leaving the airport though, I would make sure you have been authorized before you even leave the United States. Tip number 10 is anyone under 18 or over 70 is exempt from the $7 and change fee. And if you are filling out a form or an application for a family member or a travel agent is filling out a form for you, that is allowed. You just both have to fill out this representation declaration form online. Tip number 11 is that there is only one official website you should be giving your information and your $7 and change to. And if they say that on their official website, that means that there are scammers out there. So be sure to pay attention. I will have that linked in the very first comment under this video. And then if you need a free packing list, I will give you a link to my blog to get that. It's the ultimate of everything, and you just check off what you need to pack for that trip. All right, tip number 12 is if you have questions, which all of us do, even I do after all this research, they have a support system set up in their website. But remember, you cannot set up or start your application until January 1st, 2024. I hope these tips help you not feel as overwhelmed about this new requirement that's coming out. We always have choices, right? We can choose to follow these rules or we can choose to travel elsewhere. Thanks for your time and your politeness in the comments.